All right, I'm not a fantastic public speaker, so I have to have a bit of a gimmick. I put underneath some chairs out here a little piece of paper, so if you could look under your chair, it's going to come with a giveaway. If you have a piece of paper under your chair, just bring it up here. It's taped with masking tape. If it's not under your chair, look in a chair next to you, because if you get that piece of paper, I will pay for your child's college tuition. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's just a t-shirt. But if you get a piece of paper, come up here because you're part of my presentation. Should be 5 folks. Come on up, man. 1. Keep looking. Look under seats next to you. We had a full house earlier. 2. Come on up, I guess. It should be about a half sheet of paper. All right, that's 1, 2, 3. There's 1 back here. 4. We got 1 more. There's 1 more somewhere. We had 1 here. There was 1 in the back here, I think. Maybe back 2 rows. Anybody? There he is. You're a lucky man. Come on up. All right, all right. Okay, I'm having these guys come up today. By the way, my name is Kap McWhorter. I work for Humble ISD and also run a nonprofit called Finding Heroes. You don't know it probably today, but when you woke up, you were part of a default program that we have all been living probably since the Industrial Revolution. Our educational program has seen lots of novelty, very little innovation since that time period. We've had radical expansion in scope, but not radical expansion in motivation. And so I have this up here today as a picture of the default programming that is kind of operating without question. And I've had these guys come up here. If y'all could kind of unfold your pieces of paper. All right, this is a picture of the script that we're all a part of. And let's put it in order, because any of us that have been, especially in public education, are well acquainted with this script, whether we ever talk about it or not. It's just part of the default settings on this educational program. It starts off with go to school. All right, so let's put you down here. All right, so you go to school, and what are we supposed to do at school? We're going to work hard. And if we work hard, we get good grades. Look at you guys, man. Y'all, look how smart you are. All right? All right, we get good grades so we can go to college. Look at that. It's rocket science. All right, if we go to college, we can eventually... Okay, now this is the part of the program nobody talks about, right? We make the pitch here, and it probably looks much like... hello. There we go. All right, this is kind of the picture of it in my head, that there's this series of boxes we have to get over eventually to reach some ultimate goal. But we don't ever really talk about what this ultimate goal is. We say, we're going to get our kids ready for college. Anybody that's been involved in public education ever hear the word college readiness? Right? Okay, I can tell everybody that's an educator, they all just like, they did that little burp throw up. That, all right, we've all heard it enough that we want to choke on college readiness. And we sell this kind of college panacea, that if we can get our kids to college, then everything is going to be all right. Well, that's a false hope. Because a college education does not equal innovation. It does not equal making an impact in the world around you. What it equals is a diploma. And so we've trained our kids to value a diploma, to value college. Ultimately, in our sales pitches, so you can take care of a family, so you can get a good job, so you can make more money. And you guys can take a seat, but before you go, you can all take I'm going to throw them over here, and y'all can sift through them for sizes. And if they don't work, you can come see me later. I'll get you a size that fits. Those T-shirts are actually were produced by a group of students that I partnered with, that was using the proceeds from the T-shirt and the awareness they built through their program to fund fledgling entrepreneurs through a microcredit program. That was done in the public high school sector. They raised enough money to basically fund 2 young entrepreneurs in the developing world by developing those t-shirts and an awareness program on their campus. So we're going to get to that. It's a little different than the default. So what we do in education a lot of times is we've developed what is a competition-based system. We dangle these carrots out in front of students to try to motivate them. All right, if you're not familiar with this, let me expose it a little bit. Let me expose the default programming. We hear words like, it's going to be on the test. Right? Anybody ever heard that? All right, just raise your hands when you hear something that is familiar to you in education. It's going to be on the test. Okay, wow, man, we're 100% already. Okay, study hard so you can get good grades. How are you ever going to get into college? Well, how are you going to pay for college? You're going to need to get that scholarship. You know, the kid next to you is going to be competing for that same scholarship. All right, they may take your seat at that college campus. Right? Only the top 8% go to UT and A&M now. Right? You hear those things? It is a purely competition-based system where we train our students from kindergarten to value attaining a grade rather than truly embracing learning that could change their world. Now, for some students, we dangle a grade out in front of them and it's enough for them to do the dance. Right? It is, and that's good. Those are your really type A driven students. But even those students, at the end of the game, may find the payoff elusive. Okay, look at the latest Occupy movement and the splinter or sister Occupy education. There's a lot of people that did the dance that aren't getting the ring. Now, for somebody like me, they probably would have to dangle something like that out in front of me. My wife's a personal trainer, so her and this guy that's like really ripped up and muscular could probably go for the carrot. But for me, that might work. But what's really sad, and if you're a student, this should really tick you off, is that we have so demeaned you that we've said this is your carrot. And that's a poor extrinsic motivator. And what's really sad is we in education, and I have to say we because I'm a part of this system, I know that that's a poor motivator. But I find myself constantly drawn with this like magnetic force to perpetuate this default setting. The end goal is to come here to get yours. We train you through the public education sector for 13 years to come get yours. And not just come get yours, but come get more than the kid next to you because we're all competing for the same resources. That is messed up. But it's like we just keep turning on the computer every day, year after year, running the same default programming. What I'm proposing to you today is something far different. Not that. That is a picture of me and my family, all in matching white shirts on vacation. My mom really loves to take family pictures for her Christmas card, and we all take a large family vacation every year, and Mom always sends an email or text message gently encouraging us to all wear the same thing. And so while we're there, we always take a snapshot of our family in case we're going to send a Christmas card, which we never get around to doing. But this is my family. That's my wife, Wendy, who is obviously more attractive than I am, and those are my 3 children. And this, ultimately, was what everyone told me was the payoff. And I'm not going to lie, my family life is incredible. I'm lucky, beyond lucky. I'm blessed, man. I've been all over the world, and I've got it better than almost anybody I've ever met. My life is spectacular. But, I was the epitome type A student who bought in, to all the boxes I had to jump, and I did it better than everybody else around me because everybody told me that's what I was supposed to do. I earned my scholarship, I got to go to college, and I earned a scholarship to grad school, and did grad school and got a master's degree, and then got a job that could support a family and get a house and a mortgage and a couple cars, and I don't know, the list just keeps going. There's no shortage of stuff to acquire. And I woke up at 25 after meeting some really incredible people. This is Vilma Brito. She's a really, really close friend. And this picture is probably not shocking to you. This is a child starving in Kenya. I know we had someone from the Pangea Network talked to us about what they're doing in Kenya. This is a child in the Dadaab refugee camp in Kenya. She's a Somali refugee who walked for a couple weeks with her family, only to find out that there was a lack of resources in the refugee camp to support their family, even though they had walked for weeks to escape famine. This is my friend Vilma. Like most of you, when you observe the injustice of our community on a screen, it's easy to distance yourself from it. But when I met Vilma and her husband Eddie, I could not distance myself from it anymore, and I could not pretend that this inequality didn't exist, because I met some people who were courageous enough not to just change the channel. And so my wife and I ended up traveling to Mozambique and Malawi, Africa with them. And you start asking big questions like, what's the point? All right, when you start questioning the default setting, it's going to screw things up a little bit for you. It's going to be straight. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is where it led me. This is after 3 days worth of travel, and now we're walking for a day through the bush in Africa into Nowheresville, Toera, Mozambique, which is a village that has absolutely no resources. And we lived in a hut with some people there. And it began a long process, but what I saw there blew my mind. Injustice in our world finally had a face. It finally had a feeling. I felt the weight in my arms as I held them of what injustice feels like. I heard what it sounded like as we played soccer. I heard what it sounded like when these 250 orphans in this region were having their one meal a day provided by our host organization. And have you ever heard 250 kids be quiet? No, they were. All I could hear was the most startling sound I've ever heard in my life. It just like grounded me in the dirt. I just couldn't move. That sound was so powerful that I knew what injustice sounded like. And I could not pretend any longer that it didn't exist. This is my buddy Jandu. We lived with his family. I went back to try to provide for them clean water, and it was about a 2-year commitment that we made to this community to try to get them a water well, and it finally happened. But this is when I first met Jandu. He's collecting water. This is a sinkhole. What you can't tell is that this water is run downhill with livestock and human pit latrines, which is basically a hole in the ground where humans defecate. And so in this water source is both human and animal waste, and all the kids in their community were regularly sick and missing school, and the people weren't able to work because they were crippled by waterborne disease. This is Jandu's mom, and I know that this water is disease-ridden. I will not drink it, and there's this real moral tension there because I've got water back at my hut, right? But she's got that baby on her back that I know she's going to give that water to and transfer that disease. It's radically, radically unjust. And then I have to balance that when I come back with this reality, with us in the white t-shirts and the river on vacation. And I had to say something in this default setting, something in this programming is radically screwed up if I can continue to live that life pretending like I don't know this is happening. In the information age, there is no excuse for apathy. We have to just acknowledge that we don't care enough to do something, and that's painful. But we've got to own our part, that in large portion, our young people who grow into adults don't care because we have not afforded them the opportunity to exhume and resurrect their compassion, that basic part of their humanity. What we've trained them to do is to come to school for 13 years and get theirs. And we're so afraid as parents, and I hear you, I'm a parent too. I got kids at all levels of the school system. We're so afraid that if we don't do that, that they're not going to get that spot in that college, that they're going to be behind. Well, I'm telling you, there's an alternative, and it's allowing students to do far more incredible things than they could ever do trying to grind out a grade. Instead of dangling carrots, incentivizing, demeaning our audience, the most base level puppeting them, what we can offer is something radically different: empowerment and compassion. To buy time after the crisis I had of it's like an existential crisis. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, so I went to Africa. just in case you're curious, going to Africa is not the best way to keep from having a crisis. All right, it amplified my crisis. We came back and I was trying to figure out what to do with the white shirt family, and the starving kids in Mozambique and Malawi. I couldn't make that tension go away. And so to buy some time, I got into education. So I can teach school for a year or two until I figure it out. And I got in the education system and I began to hear myself regurgitate the default setting that had been presented to me. I remember sitting in class one day and saying, man, why don't you care about this? I'm going to test you on this tomorrow. If you don't study, you're going to fail. And there's a student in my class like, cool, what else you got? And I found it was like the brakes went on, like, oh my gosh, like I'm the puppet master now. I'm leading these kids to the same crisis I'm finding myself in as a young man. And I said, there's got to be something different. How can we afford these students not just the ability to become great academically, to become great students? What can we offer them to become great people, to affect incredible change? And so we started what became a social action paradigm. A paradigm that says the end goal is not to train students who can compete for grade points, but it's to train students who take their learning and do something spectacular with it to change their world. And if you're worried as a parent, like, oh, this sounds like lovey-dovey, like liberalism on, candy-coated gumdrops, just ask, one of my students is going to come up in a minute who is radically changing his world over and over again. Talk to him afterwards and ask about the college recommendation letter I'm able to write for him when he has taken his learning and changed the lives of people all over the world. And you know what? It's affected the way he studies in the rest of his classes too. It's a totally different paradigm. It feels a little bit like this, trying to cram a square peg into a round hole at times, but it is worth it. And this is not a top-down, I'm sorry for those of you that are administrators, I do some of that myself. This is not a top-down shift in ideology. Those are great things, but there's no way to correctly administrate or develop the right system to inspire innovation to take place. It just doesn't happen that way. The way it happens, and why I'm so pumped up today, is that it happens with young people challenging the default, saying, I'm not willing to let you demean me with that motivation any longer. I'm going to figure out a way to take my learning and change my world. How pumped up is your science teacher when a guy like Matt Thompson, who's coming up next, walks into his class and says, I've really been looking at chlorine levels and how they can purify water, and I'd like to see if we could talk about that in my science class, because I'm trying to raise money for some refugees in Haiti because they're dying of cholera. Science teacher is like, whoa, wow, all right, yeah, we can totally work that in to my chemistry class. You then take ownership of your own learning and change the default setting. This is what it leads to. It's one of my students, Caitlin Ripley, handing a woman in an Alzheimer's unit dignity that she couldn't ask for. Matt Thompson, who's going to come up a little later, purifying water in Nichkaza. And then a group of students I took this summer to Nicaragua to live and drill a water well in a community that they'd spend the better part of a year raising money for. This is the future of education. This is students owning their learning and doing something powerful with it, far more powerful than getting theirs. It's changing the world. It's time we change the default setting. I need one senior. Is there a senior in the room? Senior in high school, come up here right there, man. You in the sweater, quickly. Hop up. All right. Okay, we like to think about compassion as a very passive tool. There you go. I want you, because you've spent 13 years in the system at this point, right? Yeah. Kindergarten through 12th grade. Yeah. A little frustrated by that system?
A little frustrated.
All right, I want you to think about this as your capacity for compassion. And I want you to challenge the default setting. Those of you that are in the front row, you may want to. I've never done this before, so I don't know what's going to happen. All right? Let me put a thing under so they're not worried about their stage. All right. Yeah, I want you to vent in one fell swoop. I want you to vent 13 years worth of frustration with people saying the only thing you can be motivated by is money. What are you capable of? Can you change your world? Yeah. Show us. Yes! All right, now that's going to affect the way the system runs. It's smoking. That's going to affect the way the system runs. It may run a little lopsided for a little bit, but has he made an impact? Does it look different? That's the weight of your life, and it's time you reclaimed it. Thank you. Good job, man. Well done. That's a good shot. Thanks, brother.
What are some steps that youth can take to challenge the defaults? What would you say is the first step for them to find something that they enjoy doing?
It's a great question because lots of people want to do something, right? That's a good starting point. I believe there's kind of 3 steps. First step is awareness. Raise your awareness, and with the information age, that's really easy to do. You can connect with me later with our organization. That's what we do, is try to partner people with a passion with the ability to do something. So it's awareness, then take action, and then become an advocate, become a storyteller for those you've helped. Does that make sense?
And then what would they do for a career? What are some of the...
Well, Matt can talk to you a little bit when he comes up. I think he's back here. He'll come up next, but I don't think there's any shortage of ways that you can make an impact. Like one of the pictures was my buddy Robbie C., who's a musician. He's incredible. He's using the funds from his music to support kids in Haiti. Matt, who's coming up next, wants to be a hydrogeologist because he wants to bring clean water to the world. My skill set is a communicator, so I'm here using those skills to do that and advocate for people all over the world. So I don't think it's about specifically like there's some way that you can help. It's being incredibly excellent at what you do and the connecting your excellence to making a profound impact in your world.
Interesting. So it sounds like it's very important for someone to understand what they enjoy doing. And then I've found that now that I know what I enjoy doing, since I've known inventing, everything that I see is more relevant. I can draw something to it that's relevant. So whenever I do anything, I can see how it's relevant to what I enjoy doing. Does that sound
perfect?
Basically what you're...
You nailed it. Better than I did.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Javier.